As an intuitive teacher, the way that I like to teach my classes or to help people come to their natural psychic or intuitive abilities, call it what you want, is to teach to their strengths. So when I was growing up in this field, it was more of putting a label or an identity and a description of what you could do. So you had to fit into somebody else's box for you to be able to be recognized for what your natural intuitive abilities were. And it just didn't feel right. There were a lot of sacrifices that you had to take with that, because you couldn't authentically just be who you were, because it might be misunderstood or it wasn't done in the right way. And so the way that I like to show up in my classes is to figure out, which way do you work? And then we take that and I help you build points of validity, the way you can trust yourself, getting rid of the imposter syndrome, getting rid of the Debbie Downer stuff. You know, I can't do that, that's impossible. Or I like their style. Well, I think that's great that you can identify somebody else's style, but for me as a teacher, I need you to be able to identify yours. And it's going to look different than mine, which can be interesting in a class setting, because as a student, you might have been trained since age 6 to come in, listen to the teacher, do what the teacher says, but now the teacher is coming in and saying, hey, you're going to be my teacher and vice versa, and I'm going to help you find out the way that you perceive subtle light energy and figure out how you can collect that information and make it, let's call it authentic or real to you, and then help you develop vocabulary and ways to share that with other people so that you're not knocked off of your, oh, I don't want to call it that, but that you are able to communicate to someone else about what you're doing. Because what's most important about being an intuitive is to be able to connect to other people about it. So when you leave my classes, not only do you figure out the ways that you work best with it, which is going to look different than the next person. You know, I'm the first to say a spiritual path is a very lonely one. You know, if you want something where everybody is believing in the same thing, that might be called a cult, I think, these days. But if you want to build your own natural, spiritual, psychic, intuitive abilities, you're going to stand alone. And it can be very, very lonely. But if you learn how to communicate to other people about how you function and how you work, which is what I like to do in my classes at the end, so that when you walk away, you can turn to somebody else and celebrate your differences and the way that you perceive subtle light energy. Because we're all perceiving the same frequencies, but we're going to pick up on them very differently. So I want to create a safe space in that area so that we can identify our strengths, build trust in them, and still build a community around it.